Welcome, dear listeners, to another enlightening episode of Whispers of the Womb. I'm your host, Suzanne Lawson, and today we have a remarkable guest joining us from Everett, Washington, in the US. In this episode, we'll explore the profound themes of accepting being child-free and navigating grief. Our guest, Dani Frank, takes us back to her early days growing up in a turbulent environment marked by addiction and abuse. It was a different experience altogether, marked by physical and mental health struggles. But the real turning point in Dani's life came when deep grief descended upon her. The loss of her grandfather and father, just 6 months apart when she was only 16, was a devastating blow. To make matters more challenging, her family didn't acknowledge the importance of mental health during that time. Dani's journey toward healing took an unexpected path when she rediscovered her yoga practice. This rediscovery occurred while she was navigating the stress and demands of her HR career, the pivotal moment when she walked into her first yoga studio in San Antonio. Within a year, Dani found the strength to walk away from her alcohol addiction, leave her job, and embark on her journey of self-discovery and healing. She dove headfirst into yoga philosophy, meditation, Reiki, Tai Chi, and a myriad of holistic practices, recognizing the profound interconnectedness of healing, the mental and spiritual aspects of our being. Dani's journey and insights remind us of the power of holistic healing and the interconnectedness of our mental and spiritual selves on the path to profound self-discovery and wellness. So, welcome to another enlightening episode of Whispers of the Womb, the podcast that embarks on a profound journey of self discovery and the essence of health and wellness. I'm your host, Suzanne Lawson, and today we have a remarkable guest joining us from Everett, Washington, in the US. So, I'm joined today with Dani, and we are going to look at accepting being child free and navigating grief. So, Dani, it's lovely to have you here on this podcast with me today. So, just wondered if you could just tell the listeners a little bit about you and what your history to living a holistic lifestyle is.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me as a guest. My history of living a holistic lifestyle, it really starts from the beginning with I think a lot of people in this journey can empathize. We're trying to heal ourselves. And we start
Yeah,
out on this journey trying to heal ourselves. So I grew up in a very chaotic household of addiction and abuse in a very small town on the edge of the Florida Everglades.
okay.
So, very different experience. And I experienced a lot of physical and mental health issues.
Hmm.
But then deep grief set in when I lost my grandfather and my father. It was 6 months apart when I was 16.
Oh, right. Yeah.
My family didn't believe, quote unquote, believe in mental health at the time. So I was really left struggling for
Mhm.
years until I rediscovered my yoga practice when I was experiencing the manifestations of stress from my HR career. So the pivotal moment really is joining that first studio in San Antonio. And within a year, I walked away from my alcohol addiction and I ended up walking away from my job and took my first teacher training and opened my business. So I could just continue to immerse myself in yoga philosophy and in meditation. I'm a Reiki master. I love Tai Chi. It's one of my favorite practices. So I just tried to gobble it all, like whatever I could practice. And then the transformation really started to happen for me. And I recognized the power of a holistic life and how much it can, that interconnectedness of healing your physical body, your mental body, your spiritual body, it's all worked into healing grief. So I'm an
Yeah,
advocate for that and holistic well-being. I'm here to help people develop their career resilience and develop their grief literacy and guide people on their healing journeys. This
That's
is
beautiful. Yeah.
this is essence.
Yeah, yeah, that's lovely. Thank you so much for being so honest and, giving the listeners an insight into what you've been through, because I think that really resonates with people when they're trying to live a life of wellness. And I think that's what I always try and explain to people. It's your journey and it's about dabbling into different things and seeing if you like it, seeing how it feels, seeing what resonates. And sometimes it can take time to know what your vibe is.
Absolutely. You have to be willing to just try it all. I realize
Yeah.
that's something that translates through all of my life. Like, I'll try it once, and then if I don't like it, I'll probably try it again because that first judgment is normally not
Yeah.
right or not accurate.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. That was really insightful. And I love that journey of like how you got to the yoga studio and how that just became your go-to, way of dealing with the stress and in your life and the grief as well.
Yeah, I didn't really know how much grief I had
Yeah,
until now. I can look back and see that, and I think that
yeah.
that's a common theme in almost everyone's grief journey.
Yeah. I know for me, my grief journey was through not being able to have a child. It was all I wanted. It consumed my whole 20s, early 30s. And I kind of now feel a little bit sad that that was the way it was. I didn't see there was another way. I didn't see that there was a way to heal that grief and move away from it. So it is an interesting thing once you've got to that point and you can look back and recognize where that grief lay and what it meant for you.
Yeah, I hope you can, and I know you do. Like, know you grab the wisdom of that, and that's why you're here, and that's why you have this podcast and your company and your coaching. Like, you're here to help other women heal.
Yeah, someone once said to me, "You're a mother of all of us," and I thought that was so lovely. I thought that really
Yeah.
resonated. Yeah, she said, "You're our mother. You're looking after." There's different mothers for different reasons, and I thought that was so lovely.
Yeah, that is.
And so when we first met, Danny, we talked about grief and how that grief, comes up in all of us in completely different forms. And I know recently in September 2023, just recently, so we're recording this in September 2023, but you just recently broadcasted your own episode on a podcast, The Art of Surrender, A Journey Through Grief. And I'll add a link for the listeners to listen to that because I know you've got a wonderful yoga nidra practice within that. So, can you talk a little bit more about yoga nidra and how that supports others in grief?
Yeah, so yoga nidra is just it's one of my personal favorite practices. I can still
Me
go
too.
to that moment the first time that I
Yeah, me
had that
too.
experience. Yeah. And it was from a teacher that I have so much respect for and just so much love. Um, I'm so when I realized I could share this, I could learn how to do this as well and share this with people. Game over. I was like, yes. So it's so helpful in navigating grief because grief, it's this profoundly personal experience, and so is yoga nidra, because you can have a whole room of people and everybody is experiencing it at a different level. And so really, yoga nidra helps us navigate stress.
Yeah,
And I really want one of the things I want people to understand is grief manifests in the body as stress, as high stress. And our body doesn't differentiate from this is the stress from my commute, or this is the stress from my strained relationship with my mother, or this is the stress from grief. There's no
it's
filing
just
system.
stress. Yeah.
It's just stress. So that's where yoga nidra is so effective. And so, you know, this is a balance of finding something that helps you cope and something that helps you heal. Yoga
Yeah,
nidra is conscious relaxation. It's this bridge between being awake and being asleep, but not quite asleep. And in
Yeah.
this bridge,
It's there. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
this is one of the most powerful areas or times when we can really impart change and growth and healing into our nervous system, into our body. So, in a yoga nidra practice, it's like a sanctuary. I think that's why I like it so much because you go into your body
Yeah.
and nothing else is around.
No
I
one
mean,
else is there apart
no,
from
no,
us speaking, us yoga teachers
right,
speaking. Yeah. Yeah.
right. And so this practice can serve as a map to help you confront, process, and release emotions and trauma and stress that's stored in your body. It supports your nervous system, like I said, which can help regulate disruptive sleep, which anybody who's gone through a grief journey knows that sleep is sometimes hard to find. So a long-term practice can completely change that.
Hmm.
And it just really nurtures that connection of ourselves and fostering that resilience. I've seen the transformative power myself and my clients. I've actually witnessed, in the middle of giving a yoga nidra, someone's body language completely change,
Yeah.
like 10
Hmm.
minutes in. It's so powerful. And there's no wrong way to do it. So I really love that. It's just, one of the best practices we can bring into our grief journey.
And it's lovely when you get that feedback as well, isn't it, from the people in your yoga nidra practice who I know I've had some feedback once where they've said, I didn't even know that I wasn't relaxing until I've had this experience. Like
Yeah.
it's just been a whole new level. And I think I've felt that myself as well sometimes in a yoga nidra practice where when they're bringing you back to and it's almost like you're disconnected from your body and you can't move your fingers and you can't move your toes and you're being told to, but you kind of
Yeah.
like, oh, I want to stay here.
Like, I'm not here. I don't want to come back. Yeah. And one thing, like I said, there's no wrong way to do this. And so I really love helping beginners find yoga nidra, especially the beginners that tell me that meditation's not for them or that they
Right. Yeah.
can't meditate
Yeah.
because this is such a sensory experience and you're not just laying there with your thoughts, you're actually thinking about parts of your body as you go through it. It's a lot harder to say you can't meditate.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you've proved that you can.
Yeah.
So I know you've got a webinar series that you've been launching at the moment, and that's Journey to Resilience Yoga for Grief Transformation. So do you want to just tell the listeners a little bit about that, what's going on there, how you're sort of moving through that webinar series?
I'd love to share that. As we're recording this in September, I'm actually hosting the first webinar tonight. And
Oh, amazing.
yeah, I'm so excited because this really is such a passion project. And from my heart, this is my soul's journey. It comes from my personal experience and then also what I've learned professionally,
Yeah.
my yoga journey and through my teacher trainings. So, I wanted to make something that was accessible to beginners or just people that are curious about using yoga for grief support
Hmm.
because I pulled these practices from so many different places that it would be really overwhelming for a beginner to come in and try to figure this out. So
Yeah.
this webinar series is a 5-part series and it's a holistic exploration of grief and yoga philosophy. Each session dives into a certain aspect of grief, the multifaceted nature of grief, and combines the multifaceted nature of yoga. So there's yoga practices in each webinar of asana, of pranayama. Tonight I'm doing pranayama and yoga nidra. So just a really easing into it. So this is not only instructional. This is also communal. I
Yeah.
want people to meet each other. And so while I say it's a webinar series, there's going to be open Q&A. People are going to see each other. Chat's going to be open. And this addresses diverse types of grief. It's not just, for that grief of a death. It's a grief of, of the death of our dreams, of what we thought life would be, of our career, of maybe our health's changed. Grief comes in so many different forms, and I just
Yeah.
really want to highlight that for people. But ultimately, I want people to see that they have the capacity to heal and to find light in the darkness and to move forward and discover that inner strength. So I'm so excited to share this.
Sounds amazing. So how long does this last for, Danny? How long is the program for?
So this webinar series will run through November 15th. I got my big calendar right here on the wall. But what it's really leading into is I'll be holding a mini grief retreat at the beginning of November. That's a
Fabulous.
5-day experience for people to go into the practices. So
Right.
there's a couple opportunities to, if you want to work with grief literacy, and if you want to work with me through the webinar series, through the mini retreat, it's all coming down the pipe, and this webinar series is leading into that.
That sounds amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Fabulous.
so excited to share it.
So I know we touched on it previously when we were just chatting about grief and that, I mentioned to you about not being able to conceive and how that really affected my mental health. And I think at the time as well, sort of like late 90s, early 2000, when this was happening to me, we didn't have Google, we didn't have mobile phones, and I didn't actually share with anybody what I was going through. I think I was a bit embarrassed. I felt a bit of a failure. I didn't really want to share with that. And I used to have this really bad inner kind of like a mental torture, I guess. Um, so, could you share with the listeners who have similar experiences what you recommend they work on to be at peace with this grief?
Absolutely. First, I want to express my deepest compassion and understanding for what you've shared.
Thank you.
Yeah, I feel it in my heart deeply. The grief stemming from challenges in conceiving, it's so profoundly complex, like you touched on, because it interweaves our hopes, our dreams, our societal expectations, personal identity. I mean, there's so many aspects, so it can cast such a long shadow on mental
Hmm.
health. And so, this is what I would recommend. Number one, embrace your feelings, because if you cannot acknowledge how you feel or experience how you feel, you can't heal it.
Yeah,
So that's first and foremost.
yeah.
And to do that, I mean, I tell all my clients that you're going to tap into a well of self-compassion that you never knew existed, and it's deeper than you ever imagined. And that's the first step. I think seeking community is so important because we can't heal in isolation. We
Hmm.
have to heal in community. And
Yeah.
so by sharing our stories, even if it's now, even if it's after we're sharing our stories, it's so important, so that people don't feel so alone and so isolated. I can empathize, even though I have the internet and all of these things in my journey. I haven't spoken about it. I haven't really talked about it. And you were actually the first space where I felt comfortable to do that. So,
Oh, that's beautiful.
yeah,
Thank you. That's so
communities,
nice. Yeah.
communities matter.
Yeah.
Um, Journaling is one of the most powerful exercises you could ever do, because
Yeah.
this is
I
your
agree.
space.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can pour your emotions that you can't verbalize necessarily onto the paper. That's your space to do that. And you can also, if you're able to, it's funny, when my grandfather or my father died, I started a grief journal. I've never gone back to read it because
Right. Yeah.
that's just not, I'm not there yet.
Hmm.
And some people, though, they do find a lot of comfort in reading it. But I also wanted to say that, because if you never want to go back and read your journal again, you don't have to. You can
Yeah.
burn it, like
I
burn
did
after
that.
it. Yeah.
So I went through IVF 3 times, and then weirdly, I actually fell pregnant naturally. but I only got to 20 weeks. But during those 20 weeks, I journaled how I was feeling whilst carrying the baby. And actually, it was quite an angry feeling because at this point I wasn't in a relationship with my husband now. Me and my husband had split up, so I was in a relationship with somebody else, and that wasn't the best of relationships. And it really affirmed to me that it wasn't a baby that I wanted, child. It was a family,
Right.
and I didn't feel like I would have that family unit. And so I did lose the baby, and but I journaled throughout that whole time. And I remember when I moved house about 5 years ago, and I was clearing everything up, and I found it, and I started to read it, and I think I read about 4 pages, and I just had to quickly close it. And I brought it back with me, and I've got a fire. You can,
Yeah.
if you're watching, yeah, you can see the fire burning, and I put it on the fire, yeah. And I
That's
didn't read it
beautiful.
again. I didn't read it again. I just couldn't go back there. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to just say something because you said about anger. And,
Yeah.
one of my favorite quotes is I sat with my grief long enough, or I sat with my anger long enough, and she told me her name was grief. I
Oh, that's
think,
beautiful.
yeah, I remind myself of that all the time when maybe I notice that I'm a little more heated than, and where is this anger coming from? I
Yeah.
always remind myself of that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think also engaging in mindfulness practices, plug in yoga nidra again,
Yeah.
um, therapy, counseling, and celebrating your strengths because
Yeah.
you've gone through so much to get to the point where you are right now. And that takes so much strength to get there. The same strength is going to carry you forward. And we just really have to celebrate those little wins.
Yeah.
So,
Day by
like,
day, week by
yeah,
week. Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah, celebrate those little wins. And then I just really believe it's essential to remember that it's okay to mourn
Mhm.
and it's okay to mourn the dreams and the vision that you had.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's so crucial to recognize that strength and resilience and the depth that you actually possess because there's so much more than this journey. And every person's journey to peace is unique. And
Yeah.
the pain might not entirely vanish, but with time and support and self-compassion, this grief journey becomes a chapter in that broader, beautiful story of your life.
Yeah. And it's also, I guess, a time to, like you say, celebrate the wins, celebrate the joy, celebrate the thing, all of those positive things that you do have in your life, and creating, those daily affirmations, or even in before you go to bed. I quite like to do that, where I'll just journal, I am grateful for, and then write 10 things down, whether it's, I don't know, being able to go for a walk, or it's just really basic. It doesn't have to be anything
No,
really
I mean,
complicated.
today I'm gonna say I'm grateful for drinking out of my favorite mug. Like these little things that bring us joy, that make us smile, and
Yep.
that is what carries us forward.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's lovely. I know, I every morning when I wake up and I see my little dogs, and I always say good morning to them, like separately by their names, and I just say how beautiful it is to see them this morning, and the little tails wag, and it's such a lovely feeling to get that, like, recognition back as well of what we're all grateful for. They're grateful to see me, and I'm grateful to see them.
Yeah, I have a very sleepy pup, so he is not a morning person,
No,
but
one of mine isn't either.
he'll do like a little tap of his tail, and that's like how I know. I'm like, okay. When I walk into the room downstairs, it's just be a little tap, and I'm like,
It's like, I've acknowledged you here, mum.
thanks.
I love that. So, is there anything else that you would like to talk about, Danny, before we wrap up?
You know, the I was thinking about this, and I thought this is the perfect time for the pep talk that all of my clients have probably been through at some point. And this is a pep talk I give myself. So
Yep.
you're the person you're looking for.
That's lovely. Yep.
Inside of you resides that deep-seated knowledge, that
Yep.
wisdom of healing and resilience. And I didn't believe that when I first started out on the journey, but now I know that for a fact.
Yep.
And this journey is incredibly uncomfortable, but no one else can do it. No one else can lead you there. And some of us, we can offer you pieces of a map that consist of shared
Yep.
wisdom, of practices, of techniques. But ultimately, it's up to you to collect all of those pieces of your map and
And
put them
make
together.
Yeah, and make that lovely your own
Yeah,
little globe of like
yeah.
travels. Yeah. Yeah.
This is going to lead you to the person towards healing, to the person that you've always wanted to be. And this is the map of resilience. This
Yeah.
is how you get there.
That's lovely. I love that.
Thank
So
you.
before we go, I've just got a little bit of a curveball question. If you could live anywhere in the world other than where you're doing right now, where would it be and why?
Mm. This this is such a hard question. I thought it was a hard question for me to answer, but then I remembered that since I was a teenager, I dreamed about living in Seattle. And
Oh, okay.
after moving to Seattle, we lived there for we just moved up to Everett this year. So
Mhm.
we were in Seattle for 5 years, and it helped me realize that Seattle wasn't the dream, but the Pacific Northwest was. So I really love it here, and I do live where I dreamt I would. But if I could live anywhere here, it would be Lopez Island in the San Juan Island chain that's off the coast here. It's
Right.
through Canada and the US. It's it's so beautiful and it's so magical. I've got to spend a lot of time out there, gratefully. My husband and I were actually married on a nearby island.
Oh,
Uh,
lovely.
yeah, so we go out there once a year. And Lopez Island, it's one of the smaller inhabited islands. It's absolutely magical. The people, the environment, being surrounded by the water, and just getting there, it's such an incredible experience because you have to take an hour
As we
ferry
conclude
ride
this
from the
thought
mainland,
provoking episode of
just
Whispers of the
going through
Womb,
all
I
of
want
these
to
other
extend our
islands. And
deepest gratitude to
sometimes
our
you do see
extraordinary guest,
wildlife,
Dani Frank,
whales
for
or
sharing her
the
inspirational
sea
journey of
otters
self
or
discovery and
porpoises. It's
healing.
incredible.
Dani's
And
story
so just that
serves as a
journey
beacon
sets
of
the
hope for
tone
those
for like
seeking
where you're
solace
going to
in
go
their
next.
bodies, minds, and
Yeah,
beyond.
yeah.
If
And
If
if you've been
American
moved
or
by
is it
today's
Canadian?
discussion,
Is it and are in
this
search of a
island
more
is in
profound
America.
in
But it's
transformation,
like
consider
right, like the
exploring my
border's not far
transformative
out there.
6-month Wellness to Womb
There's such a
program.
strong sense of
This
community in
program is a
Lopez Island, and
holistic
I think
journey
that's
that
what
empowers
really
women to find peace
draws
within
me
themselves
here.
and provides
So yeah,
invaluable
I'd really love
tools
to
and
live there one
techniques
day.
for
And
navigating the
what's
intricate
their kind of
landscape of
trade? Is it like
grief.
fishing
And for
or
those of you listening in
so
real time,
with,
don't miss the
modern
opportunity to
times, there's a lot
participate
of
in
people
Dani's
that
upcoming
are like
online
are
retreat
virtually
starting
Canadian
on
that live
November the
out there.
1st,
There's a lot of
2023. It
artists,
promises
there's
to be a
farmers,
transformative
there's
experience
obviously
that can guide you
fishing
on your
in
path to
nearby
healing
areas.
and self discovery. To
There's
stay
they have such a
updated on
cute
Dani's
little
offerings,
downtown with
retreats,
like a
and
coffee
workshops,
shop
and
and
my
a
own,
cute little
please refer to the links
Airbnb and a
below.
nice natural
Remember,
grocery store.
healing is a journey, and there's
And
no better
so
time to
their
embark on it
trade, I
than
would
now.
say, is probably
Thank you for joining
most
us
the
today
people
on
are like
Whispers of
virtually
the Womb.
commuting,
We
but
hope
the
this
island
episode has
has such
shed
a steep
light on the
history
profound
in the fishing
interconnectedness of
industry in this
healing your
area.
mental,
It's
physical, and
and the
spiritual
indigenous
body. Until next
population
time,
in
may
this
your
area.
journey
The
be
San Juan
filled with
Islands hold a
whispers
lot
of
of reverence
solace
for them.
and the profound wisdom
Sounds
of self
magical.
discovery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's everything from me, Danny. I just want to say thank you so much for sharing, your journey and opening up your heart to all of the listeners. It's been really lovely to hear how you've been going and what you're now offering as well in
Thank
your
you.
program.
Yeah, thank you so much for allowing me to share this and to have this conversation with you. And maybe I just hope one person grabbed one nugget about grief and it helps them move
Yeah,
forward.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, just before we go, I'll just tell the listeners a little bit about my program, which is Wellness to Womb, and that's a 6 month program where we work one to one. So, we go on this journey together for 6 months, and that is presented to women who, like myself, have suffered from endometriosis or any gynecological pain. So the links for to contact Danny and myself will be below the video if you need to contact us. So thank you for listening. Namaste.